A W is a W is a W. Welcome in fact, to the Winners Lounge. That is the Toyota Winners Lounge. I guess we're not in the Winners Lounge, but that's okay. You can have it, Toyota. This is the DNVR Avalanche podcast presented by Bet365. We are live after the Avs win 4-2 over the San Jose Sharks in a game that was not very pretty, but it did function, so that's good. I want to get your thoughts on this one, because I don't know, maybe I'm underthinking this, but are you looking heavily into the process of this game, or are you just taking the win?
You take the win. You take the win. You got to look, like I talked about in the pregame. It's not an excuse. Again, I keep saying that, but it's a reality. It's been a messed up month. It's an absolute disaster of a schedule. They are under the weather. It's just you got to remember, they went on a 9-dayer twice, coming back home, all the mileage. Now they're gone out west again for a 4-gamer. Didn't start the right way in Vancouver. Didn't really have any juice. Tonight I felt they played good in the first period. I felt they were fine in the first period, and I didn't like their second period, but I liked their third period. Clearly they turned on the engines there, and they had the better goalie in the net, and was a big difference tonight. One guy made saves, the other one didn't, and it's a long story. It's been the story of a lot of it this year like that, and but the Avs were on the right side of it tonight, and that's all part of it. At the end of the day, it's a big win. You're 1-1 on the road trip now, going on a Sega Baba tomorrow night in Anaheim. You're in good shape. The power play got off the schneid. I mean, there's a lot of positives. There's a lot of good things tonight.
There is a lot of good things. We'll talk about all of those. We'll also talk about some of the negatives to kind of put all a bow on it before we dive in. To me, the Avs really only played about 20 to 25 good minutes of hockey tonight. And that's not a good thing, but they won the game. And that is a good thing. So, look, there are two ways to think about this game. And there are some things that I do believe the Avs absolutely have to start doing better immediately. But at the same time, this is another game where the Avs played poorly and still managed to win. Now, yes, San Jose is a bad opponent. There is no doubt about that. But you should be able to play poorly and still beat bad opponents. The Avs manage that much at very least. We can run it in rough chronological order. Start was great. I have no problems with the first 7, 8, 9, 10 minutes of this game for Colorado. They were out shooting San Jose 7-1 at one point early in the game. They even get on the board on the power play. First shot of the game ends up in the back of the net. Are we giving the Avs credit for this start, or are we saying you did it against San Jose, so doesn't matter?
I'm going to use your line that you use all the time. You can only play the game that's in front of you. And That's the game that was in front of them, San Jose Sharks. And by the way, it's not a bad team. I really don't mind. I like where they're going. Obviously, they're going to have to show up a little bit the back end, and I don't think that's the answer in the net there. But, somewhere, somehow, Macklin Celebrini is a special player. Will Smith's only going to get better. I like the veteran presence and that Tyler Toffoli's bringing to those guys, especially to a kid like Macklin. At the end of the day, it's you play the game that's in front of you. You're right. The first period, I thought it was a good start. It was a medium, in between. But I thought remember that long shift there at the end of the first period? I think it was McKinnon's line there. It was a great shift, to set up a power play and to get back on the power play for the second period. But obviously they didn't cash in on that one. And I think the biggest thing of the night is they took a lead, and just, I mean, I'm laughing because it was the first shot of the game. It's just seen that movie too many times, this year. But it was, and it was on the power play. And if you look at that power play, it was bring the puck up to Makar, and that's what we talked about in pregame. Bring up the puck, shoot the puck, create a broken play, and that's exactly how they scored. It doesn't have to be always pretty. Like, we'll talk about it later, but that was it. Miko's goal there, and that the second power play goal. Yeah, the pass across, the seam pass finally worked. I think you put that on the DNVR Twitter, thing there, where it gets frustrating. But those guys can do it. They can thread the needle, and tonight they did. And it's a pretty play. It's a almost undefendable play when it works. It's just that when you're trying to get off the schneid on the power play, you really get off of it like you did on the first shot there, meaning on the first power play there.
Yeah, life is just so much easier when you start the right way and you start in front. And that goal ends up being big because it makes it a 1-goal game later in the game after the poor stretch for the Avs. There are a couple of things I wanted to get into in the first period as well, though. At all strengths in the first period, the Avs attempted 32 shots. They were generating at a fine level, but they were not executing. They only had 12 shots on goal on 32 attempts. You're talking about 35% of your shots aren't even making it on net, whether that's they got blocked or you just missed. It's weird because this feels like a little bit of a different conversation for the Avs, at least the first period. Again, I'm not getting into the second and third yet, because far too often this year it's felt like the Avs haven't shot the puck enough. They did that in the first period. They just maybe didn't execute it that well.
Good word. I totally agree. Good word.
And I just wanted to make that clear because I do think, especially in the second period, the Avs were not the better hockey team. That's fine. We'll get into that. But in the first period, I think a lot of people feel like that period was closer than it was. But really, the Avs dominated it in a lot of ways. Scoring chances were 13-4 in the Avs' favor. High danger chances were 4-2 in the Avs' favor. That was a period that the Avs completely controlled, even if San Jose did push back in the second half of the first. And they gave up one very, very high danger chance. They got to save out of Blackwood, and that's how you win a period.
No, exactly. And again, I thought they would have come out with a little bit more gas. We talked about it in pregame. I know for a fact they're still under the weather, and I know we keep talking about it, but you can see it. You can see it in a couple guys. It's easy to see the energy levels low. It's not that the give crap meter is low. That's not it at all. You got to look back, and we talk about, like right now in a pod post game, we talk about what just happened, and that's our job, right? Is to talk about what we just saw in that day, in that game that you say all the time is played in front of you. But sometimes you got to look a little bit at the whole. You have to look at the whole month. And listen, here's what I'm going to tell you. That schedule would have murdered or KO'd, I would tell you, 3/4 of the league. And it's just like at the Masters, right? Hey, man, corner, like they're there now. These next couple, it's just you got to get through it, survival mode. And then you finally get that Christmas break, and after that, in my mind, the schedule gets a lot easier. Meaning, there's a lot of games, and we all know why, because of the Four Nations tournament, and everything is a little cramped in. But you get a lot of home games. I think they can make some hay there. Who knows if they're getting back to Druins of the world or whatever it is. But, somewhere you're going to sleep in your own bed. It makes a big difference. Going from hotel to hotel and getting on the plane, it just gets old. And this is the third long trip in the month. And it's tough. I am not defending the guys. I'm just being, truthful and honest on how you feel when those things happen. So I think you saw it. Up and down today, where I felt the energy level was pretty good. Then all of a sudden it was pretty flat, especially, for example, like you just said, in the second period. And I think it picked back up. Obviously, a goal will give you wings and a save will give you wins. And that's what they got in the third period.
Yeah, look, the Avs ultimately got to where they needed to be tonight. And I think that's true of the team as a whole. And it's also true on individual levels. Even with good possession metrics, let's be honest, I don't think Nathan MacKinnon was any good tonight. This is a guy who, in the first period, he has a wide open net, can't put the puck on net, misses a great opportunity, has multiple turnovers, one that leads directly to a goal against and one that ends up with a goal against 20 seconds later. And you saw some of that version of Nathan MacKinnon where he was visibly frustrated on the ice after multiple shifts time and time again. Now, at the same time, he ends up with a 2-point night, including an unbelievably good assist on the game-tying goal. That's why he's Nathan MacKinnon and everyone's not. Sure. Is that good enough from Nathan MacKinnon for the Avs?
I mean, it's not good enough, but in reality, again, no disrespect to the Sharks, against the Sharks and Alexander and Georgiev, it is good enough. I think we see the score there. I think he's probably the most critical guy too of his own game. So I think he'd be the first one. Absolutely. He'd be the first one to tell you, like, hey, I got more. I felt Mikko had more. I felt at times
he was also no good, and then scores that huge goal. It's superstar stuff.
I know. It's just like he looked great at times, meaning like I thought he was just gonna pass out. You know what I mean? And he fell down like the big moose at that center ice there a couple times. He looked like Bambi, and I was like, man, that's he's a big, strong guy. Yeah, we all know that it starts from those guys, but again, we'll dive into it a little more. But when those guys are having an, like you said, okay night, where all of a sudden, the power play cashes in for 2, but then you got Kiviranta's line that, catches fire a little bit, or Kiviranta himself catches fire and then scores 2 on an unlikely source. If you would have asked me before the game, I remember I told you Colton's going off. I had the wrong guy. Kiviranta the best.
I love the first way you answered this question, because this is a conversation I want to have tonight, especially.
Yep.
You're in the point of the season where you don't care how you win. You need wins. You need 2 points every single night you can. But also, this is game 34? Mm-hmm. And we're still at the point in the season where we're talking about the Avs have these bad habits in the games. The Avs have these struggles, and they're a good enough team to overcome them on nights like tonight against the San Jose Sharks. But when do you start being concerned that the bad habits are becoming just who the Colorado Avalanche are as a hockey team?
I know, and I agree with you. I go back to pregame. Remember key number 3, championship habits, right? You know what I mean? And it's exactly. And I know, I agree with you. If you're rewatching this game right now, and you're gonna break it down, like, yeah, there's some bad play. There's a couple bad turnovers. There's a couple bad, thought process plays where you're like, why are you forcing this? There's just nailed down every goal. Is it the first one? Mikko falls asleep a little bit on the broken play. Is it Sammy on the second one? And again, that's why I love broken plays, by the way, because it catches people dead asleep, like you're talking about. So, but the Avalanche, I do believe. I go back to that point, but it's so true. For me, if there was a fresh week, fresh couple weeks, and it hasn't been that craziness, and you're seeing those things, I would be a little bit more worried, where I know that fatigue will, just think of a shift where you're at the end of your shift and you're struggling, you're hunched over, and you make a wrong decision, you have a brain fart. It's very simple. It's fatigue. You can't do it, and you just do it because that's what being tired, and that's what being at the end of with no gas left makes you do. So, am I concerned about the habits? No. Do I agree with your comment of the habits? Yes. And that's why I brought it up in the keys to the game before the game, because it's starting to creep. Now, yes, you don't get away with it if you're playing somebody else than the up-and-coming San Jose Sharks. Let's call it a spade, right? Let's be nice to them there. There's a reason I think it's the first time in NHL history that 3 games in a row at home they have the lead in the third period and lose the game. So there's a reason for that. And I remember we texted after the second, and I'm like, they're gonna win, because it's just like that's what young teams do, right? And you got to go through the pains of trying to understand what a hockey game is, and the San Jose Sharks are going through it. And I think that benefit the Avalanche tonight on that side of things, where they might have gotten away where they didn't have their championship habits, but they had it enough where it mattered, and they had it enough when they needed to cash in. And like I said, that power play, and then we can talk later a little bit about that PK, because that third
We
period,
will.
those two PK, yeah, exactly. You know what I mean? So, and it comes down to one thing there, and we'll talk about it.
Yep, we'll get into all that. I just wanted to bring that up because I think it's fair to
Yep.
say that I've certainly believed that the Avs will figure out a lot of these habits or issues in the minor details of their game. But we were through 10 games and we said, well, they're super injured. They'll still get their feet under them. Through 20 games, well, they're still injured, and the Avs have always been a team that when they need to, they tighten up and figure things out. Through 30 games, the details still aren't figured out. Yeah, sure, you can find excuses. We're now, next game will be game 35. We're quickly approaching the halfway point in the season, and it still feels like there are a lot of details in the Avs game that on a night-to-night basis aren't good enough. And I think that's worth noting. I think it's worth noting that the Avs have to be more consistent and more effective, especially in the little details of this game, if they want to go far this season. With that being said, tonight, they did their job. They got the win. So it was good enough tonight. I'm not going to talk too much more negatively about them. I think there's more positives to take ultimately in the end here, including the positive of, hey, Eric, can you hear me now?
I don't know. Let me see. Yeah. Yes.
Good. You must be on Verizon then.
Yes.
'Tis the season to switch to Verizon. Right now, if you move to Verizon, get a $200 Verizon e-gift card just for switching and purchasing a select phone on select unlimited plans. You get their 5G network that powers your day, whether it's calling mom before takeoff or streaming jams and traffic jams. Verizon has you covered with their award-winning network performance. And they also have Verizon Access. If you have experiences that you love, whether it's sports, music, or entertainment, being a Verizon customer gets you access to over 1 million tickets to your favorite artists, sports teams, and experiences to choose from. So jump over to Verizon now. When you switch, you'll get that $200 e-gift card only at Verizon. The card is sent within 8 weeks. Required device payment purchase, minimum retail price $799.99, and poured in with new smartphone line on postpaid unlimited plus or unlimited ultimate plan required with Verizon. Once you can hear me now, make sure you're also heading on over to Toyota to get your local front range dealerships. I'll be honest, when you're an Avs fan, sometimes you got to trek through the mud a little bit. Sometimes you got to do the dirty work at times. That's where Toyota comes into play. 17 different all-wheel drive vehicles that'll get you to where you need to go, especially in Colorado. Although really, it's been a pretty mild winter. You might be able to bust out the regular tires for these ones. You can bust out the fast cars as you will. So Toyota has those too. They have their performance series. If that's what you're into, they've got something for everybody when it comes to Toyota vehicles. So make sure you're getting with Toyota as the official vehicle of the Colorado Avalanche and us here at DNVR. You can get with them with AutoNation Toyota, Arapahoe and Centennial, Corwin Toyota in Boulder, Groove Toyota in Littleton, Mountain State Toyota in Denver, Stevenson Toyota East in Aurora, and Stevenson Toyota West in Lakewood. Again, the official vehicle of the Colorado Avalanche is Toyota. Second period of the DNVR Avalanche podcast. Look, Colorado got the job done. And I know I said I wasn't going to be too negative, but very quickly, if we're going in chronological order, second period was rough. No two ways around it. The Avs were coasting. They looked lazy through the majority of the period, and they were not performing the little details that they really needed to perform to make this look like a quality hockey game. Now, they got away with it. Good. They're a good team. Cool. I can live with that. But they still shouldn't be happy with themselves in the second period.
No, and I think it stems from, if I remember 4 minutes, 5 minutes to go in the period, and I do believe they only had about 5 shots. So I think if you're, dealing with the law of averages, with a goaltender that usually gives up, below a 900. Therefore, that's not enough. And this is not a veteran decor, the San Jose Sharks. It's not a veteran ladder forwards either. So you got to give them credit. They had a little bit of spunk in their game, but the Avalanche were not, pressing the gas. For me, it is what it felt like. Yeah, we got time. We can press it on in the third, and it's exactly what happened. I'm not saying that's what they were thinking, but it's certainly what it looked like. in my book. And then you play with fire when that happens because you run into a hot goaltender. Think of it as Mackenzie Blackwood last year. Remember they peppered him for 50 shots. Remember it's like, oh, okay, maybe we'll just turn that on. And then they ended up winning in the shootout or whatever it was. But,
Yep.
you run into that, you're in trouble, or you run into a few penalties, and then you're in trouble. But lucky enough tonight, it didn't bite them in the rear end. But yeah, I mean, it's not a recipe to win. The recipe to win tonight was to get ahead, which they did. Get on the power play and score a goal. They scored two and get some saves. So somewhere, somehow, they got some of the recipe you need. But I agree with you. There was some parts missing. Absolutely, not to harp on it. It's a fact, and for all the reasons, it is what it is. But somewhere they were better than the Sharks, I would say the first period, and then obviously on the scoreboard in the third period. So enough to get a win against a team like that. But like you're right, is it the best recipe to go and, to play a first place team next week? Maybe not, but what it does though is it gives you a little bit of wings, it gives you a little bit of breathing room. You don't lose two in a row. You talk about it all the time. I talk about it all the time. You know what? All's forgotten right now about Vancouver, and now you're concentrating on Anaheim tomorrow night.
Yeah, well, let's get into some of the reasons why they were better with our 3 stars of the night. I think there are a couple of obvious ones. Starting off with one that isn't obvious, though, in Ray Bennett. Look, I understand. Before tonight, the Avs power play has been downright terrible the last 10-15 games. But tonight it goes 2 for 4. And I know there are a couple of power plays in there that look bad, that are not executed well, that the Avs failed to really even do much meaningful offensive anything. But ultimately, you played two power plays where you put the puck in the back of the net. You were 50% on your power play tonight. It does not have to look perfect every single night. We talked about that early in the pregame show for this game. And how does the first one go in? You get a good bounce off the end wall and you have a guy in the right spot in front. The second one is an all-world play from all-world players. It feels like it's been too long since they've been able to accomplish that on the power play, but they finally made one work. I think, and we'll get into the rest of the special teams in a second, but I think even if it didn't look pretty, you have to be happy with the power play tonight.
Yeah, because of what you just said, I think they start right away with a power play. Obviously, the first shot of the game goes in, and it had to be emphasized by Ray, and that's why it's a good pick there for the third star. And their power play meaning to be okay. Enough's enough. Let's bring the puck up top. Let's shoot the puck. It's either going to go in, it's either going to get tipped, it's either going to create a broken play, and let's pounce on pucks once we see if it goes off the backboard, or if it goes off the goalie, or if it goes off a D. Let's get second, third, fourth chances. And yeah, we all know we can make the big play, and then obviously they score that goal, and it's off a broken play, and they pounced on it, and Val does the job. It's hard to defend broken plays. It's almost impossible because you don't know how to react to it. And then, of course, they say, you know what, let's get back to our world plays. And there's a word you used earlier, executing. They executed a play there that not a lot of people in this league can do. So Ray Bennett knows what he has at his disposition as a power play coach, where he's not going to tell Nate McKinnon what to do. He's not going to tell Kel McCarr what to do. He's not ignorant. You're going to give them leeway. You're going to give them your thoughts. You're going to show them what the opposition's doing. How can you break it down? Where are we forcing that 2-on-1? All over the power play, so to speak. Or let's just bring the puck up and shoot. But I think that once they did that, once they broke the ice, you knew they were going to get another one where it was going to be an all-world play. And then good luck tomorrow. The first power play might get ugly a little bit if they don't execute. Stubbornness might take over, yeah.
Moving on to star number 2 here. Look, I want to talk about the PK as much as I want to talk about Mackenzie Blackwood by himself here. Nope. Eric, you steal my phrases, I'll steal one of yours. Show me a good penalty kill, I'll show you a good goaltender. The Avs PK goes perfect tonight, and Mackenzie Blackwood is a big reason as to why.
And look no further than the third period, and those two Like, was it Val? Like the penalty there, bad luck. The guy steps on his
Yeah,
stick.
yeah, it was Bell. Yeah.
And I Lekanen penalty, I didn't like that one. That was like, what are we doing here? I'm not sure where the penalty was, but whatever. And that happens. That's part of hockey, right? And then, but what does he do? He makes saves. You know what I mean? He comes up big on a couple times,
Mm-hmm.
and that's why they made that deal because every team needs those saves on a regular basis, not one game out of 10, not one period, but regularly. And this guy's going to provide that for the Avalanche. Look no further than the numbers right there, 941. It's tough to lose with a 941 on the road. I don't care who you're playing against. It's tough to lose with a 941. It's rare that you see that, unless it's a 1-0 game and you lost the game. But this guy came up clutch. He is coming as advertised. He is a big presence, and you even saw, it's rare you see that, Bednar leaving the ice after the third period. In San Jose, you do have to walk across, right? Not across, but in the corner to go back to the dressing room. And he even made a little point to just kind of have a little bit of a sharp turn right and then, tap Mackenzie Blackwood in the back there. You know what I mean? Like, he didn't have to do that. I think he's like, I'm liking this because it's correcting. That's for every team. That's every championship team. Goaltending is there to correct what was done wrong in front of them on 5-on-5 or on the PK. And tonight, he was their best penalty killer.
It's funny, Eric. I got to give you a lot of credit here. First of all, you called the 4-2 score line tonight, but you've always said 2 or less. 2 or less from your goaltender. Well, Mackenzie Blackwood's been here for 3 games, and it's been 2 or less in all 3 games. The worst save percentage of the bunch is a 917.
And the one that he came up short was that Vancouver game where he didn't get goal support, right? So tough to win if you score 0. It's usually rare, that you'll win. What was the final? 3-0 there, empty netter?
3-1, yeah.
Oh, 3-1. Okay, sorry. We scored 1. That's right. I forgot about that. Man, they all blend in right now, the games, I tell you. Yeah. Man, I apologize. And it's like pregame when I talked about Giovanni Smith that's not there. Like, I was like totally lost, and I totally forgot that he was just a transaction paper a couple days ago, and he was back, and obviously never left. But just I really, really did not, because Fairhair threw me off from the game before.
Right. They called up Inola to just play Giovanni Smith again. It was a little weird for sure.
No, I really thought I was going to be in there. And again, we do the pregame show before, as warm up starts. So we weren't too sure. I wasn't too sure. So I kind of, I apologize if I did talk about the 3 players playing against their former teams tonight. It was actually 4 with Giovanni Smith. So my apologies to Giovanni Smith and all the listeners.
Yep. It is what it is. And the most important thing tonight, you started it for Blackwood. He was better than the guy across from him. This was, I think for the fan base, it was pretty cathartic. And this is nothing against Alexander Georgiev, but the vibes are weird right now for the Colorado Avalanche. And I think a lot of people probably come away with this game feeling more confident that the Avs made the right decision when it came for this trade.
100%. If you're looking at it, what you saw tonight, it's exactly what you've seen all year. There's nothing different. He just was wearing a different jersey. Again, nothing against the person. This is not personal. This is not. It's a question of fit, and for me, it's a no-brainer that Mackenzie Blackwood is a better fit, and will give less fits, to the coaching staff and the fans than what they had before in Alexander Georgiev.
Yeah, I think that's pretty clear. And then our number 1 star is the unexpected hero tonight, the game-winning goal scorer.
Kiviranta.
2 goals on the night for Yoel Kiviranta. And look, frankly, this is what the Avs do need a little bit more of, and that is depth scoring. Kiviranta happens to be the one guy that is finding a way to consistently produce this year, and he deserves a lot of credit for that. After his flurry of goals earlier in the season, I was number one on the list saying, hey, I don't think this is going to continue. He's never proven that he can continue to keep this up throughout a season in his career. And guess what? He did go on a bit of a cold streak, but ultimately I've been wrong about this guy. He's found a way to chip in points and continue to produce and be a much needed source of production in the Avs depth.
Well, there's two words for that. For me, it's trust. So he's gained the trust of the coaching staff. And that started in the playoffs last year. And I think Jared goes out of his way once in a while on his pressers to praise him, because what you see on not really reflects on the score sheet. Usually, tonight it did. So I think trust is a big thing. And I do believe that, a question of fit too. You know what I mean? Like he's been a good fit. And he's a very reliable player, and he's consistent. He's gained that consistency that you gain with being an but an experienced player in the National Hockey League. And here's what I liked about. Do I think he's a threat to score goals? No. Do I think he plays the right way and he's in the right places? Yes. Is he going to go cold for 10, 15 at a time? Absolutely, and you're bang on with that. But what I like tonight is he gets that 3-on-2, and what does he do? Shoots. He's not trying to pass the puck across, and let's not take anything away from his goal, and let's not ridicule Alexander Georgiev on that play, but it's a blueberry muffin that he throws at the net. It's not Mikko Rantanen shot. Like it's a muffin, and it goes in, but you know what? Awesome on him. He decided to make the right play, was to shoot the puck, especially when you're playing the percentages like we talk about all the time. And it ends up being the game-winning goal, and it's the play of the game. So I love it. Congrats to him. And I'm not taking anything away from him and his blueberry muffins, even though I would eat a blueberry muffin right now because I do get hungry right now,
I think AJ has a great phrase that I love to use when it comes to depth players. Make them beat you. Make them beat you. Yoel Kiviranta not only shoots the puck, shoots it on net. He makes Alexander Georgiev make a save, and Georgiev didn't. You're not going to make the best play in the world. You're not Nathan McKinnon. You don't have that in the bag. So make a play and make them make a better one. A lot of the time, they won't, and you'll end up in a good spot.
What do I tell you all the time? My pet peeve in hockey is he goes there and he shoots wide.
Yep.
That's my pet peeve. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Because I play with a guy named Yari Curry. 600 goals, 70-plus goals multiple time. And I'm telling you, in practice, if you missed the net, he'd skate by you and he'd be, obviously Finnish player. And he'd tell you, never on, never in, kid. Never on, never in, kid. And he's right. Because if you miss the net, you have no chance. You know what I mean? And on that play, like I said, it is a muffin, but he does hit the net, and he makes the right choice, which is in his situation, in the situation of the game, and he hasn't scored in a while, like whatever it is, it's a shot on net. That's the play. It's not to try to saucer it across, and you know what? He makes it. He cashes in on it, and I think it's awesome.
Well, Eric, I got to tell you, I'm in a little bit of a snack situation right now. So I got to make my way down to Circle K and get in the inner circle right now. You can go with Circle K and get in the inner circle and get a bunch of great deals, including not just snacks, but 25 cents off a gallon when you fill up at the pump for your first 5 fill-ups after you sign up with Circle K. All it takes is your email and your phone number. Download their app. You're good to go. You're getting deals. You can get with them. You can get snack deals every day. You can jump in with their Polar Pops too. They've got you covered with Circle K's Inner Circle. So sign up today. You can get entered into sweepstakes and you can get great deals every single week as part of the Inner Circle. Once you're set up with Circle K, make sure you're also chilling, kicking back, relaxing, having yourself a Coors Light. You can go get it today. The mountains turn blue on the bottle or the can, so it's the beer literally made to chill. It lets you know that it's ice cold and ready to drink. And I said go get it. You don't have to go get it. You can stay right at home and you can order it at CoorsLight.com/DNVR today. You get it delivered right to your front door thanks to Instacart. So jump in with Coors Light too. They are a fantastic beer. Can't go wrong with a Colorado brewed beer like Coors Light. Jump in and choose chill today. Again, Coors Brewing Company, Golden, Colorado. Please drink responsibly. Third period. of the DNVR Avalanche podcast with Rudo and E here. Third period of this game, obviously things worked out for Colorado. Let me get your opinion on this, Eric. How much of the downside of this game was the Avs doing this to themselves and them getting outplayed by San Jose for a stretch of this hockey game?
I think it's a little bit of both. I say it all the time. There's two teams on the ice. I understand they're at the bottom of the standing, but they still have some dangerous players. I'm not going to stop marveling about. I'm biased because I know the kid, but Macklin Celebrini is going to be a superstar in this league, and you saw it tonight a couple times. In the corners, the way he escapes, the way he can I've never seen a kid, an 18-year-old kid. He's going to be 18 all year. He turns 19 in June. Attack the middle like that of the crease when there's 4 or 5 defenders from the opposition and still get it off. You saw it a couple times tonight, so it's hard to defend. I mean, you could be in the right position and either he picks it or he just misses, where I think he just missed a couple times. I think Blackwood saved it a couple times, but I think Blackwood knew what he was up against tonight with Celebrini, because he's obviously, the start of the season for 20, 30 games or so, practice with him and sees what this kid's all about and where does he go get his cookies, you know what I mean? And so I think tonight part of that was that. I like their team. I like that 72. I like that it was 72, Eklund, Zetterlund, whatever you want to say their names, but I really like them. I do believe they're on their way somewhere. They obviously drafted a young D last year that's in juniors. They're coming. You know what I mean? And I think part of it tonight was, to your question, was a little bit of both. A little bit of their own demise, right, by bad habits, right? Costing them on a couple shifts, not necessarily in the net, but obviously losing pace of the play by those mistakes. And then give credit to the Sharks a little bit too, where they were pretty exciting a little bit at times. And I thought Mackenzie Blackwood made some big saves, at 5-on-5, not just on the PK, but at 5-on-5.
Yeah, I think the way you started it is correct. They have a lot of fun players on the offensive side. They are a dangerous hockey team when it comes to the offensive side. That is what it is. Yes, the Avs have stuff to clean up defensively, but sometimes good players can score goals on you. Where San Jose is not a good team is defensively. They're probably the worst team in the league defensively. Maybe Chicago is in there. One of the worst teams in the league defensively, no doubt about that. And at times, that's where I have problems with the Avs tonight. It felt like they made that defense's job a little bit too easy for long stretches of the night. Both the execution, but honestly, through the second period, there was just, I don't know if it was necessarily a lack of effort. You talked about the ridiculous schedule they've been on, but it just felt like the Avs weren't quite engaged as much as they needed to be.
And I just to add to that, I really thought the game was going to get away from them is when they challenged it, which I would have challenged it as well, because
we'll talk about that.
But I'm saying right there, I thought the game could have gone away and slipped away from them because of, now you lose the challenge, you go on the PK, and then it's a tough stretch of like 2-3 minutes right there. And again, it didn't end up being a turning point, which is good. But, it felt like the vibes were not good at that time there. It was kind of, everything was going south a little bit.
I mean, two things there. One, I saw a lot of people talking on Twitter, and the Altitude broadcast also kind of didn't understand this. And I'm not saying this is the way that it necessarily should be, but the rule with high stick is a pretty gray area when it comes to continuing the play. When you put the puck directly into the net with a high stick, it has to be below the crossbar. But when you're playing a puck, not directly scoring a goal, when you're playing a puck and play continues around the ice, like what happened on this goal, high stick is a discretion call by the referee based on the player's shoulders. So where that guy played a high stick may have been over the crossbar and may still not have been a puck played with the high stick. Is the NHL rulebook stupid, confusing, and convoluted? Absolutely. But I saw a lot of people claiming that was just the wrong call, and I think it was a good goal. I don't really have a problem with it.
No, I don't have a problem with it. I'm telling you, on the spot, I would have challenged it.
Totally. I got the challenge. I understood.
I would have taken my chance. I would have taken my chance thinking that you gotta remember it happens quick, right? You gotta you gotta look, you gotta say, yeah, and then they're
Unless you're
pressuring
John
you
Cooper.
and yeah, you can take forever if you're John Cooper, but you know what I mean. I would have challenged it. I'm not saying it's the wrong call out there. Is you take your chances, and it could have been disastrous a little bit. It's always disastrous usually in a game when you have the wrong call, and all of a sudden you have to go and kill a penalty and you don't kill it. It's just a double like bang, and it's like, ugh. It usually hurts you at the end of the night, and luckily it didn't tonight.
And I think that's the second part of this, and maybe one of the biggest positives I take. We already talked about the penalty kill, but that goes beyond just tonight. We've seen over the last handful of games, the Avs penalty kill has really started to turn it around. I'm sure a big portion of that is the goaltending, but if you're looking for a reason to believe that the long-term bad habits the Avs have had this season can still be solved, I think the penalty kill is front and center right now for you in that when the Avs do figure it out, when they do put things together, they can perform in any part of the game at an elite level.
Absolutely. And what you're seeing a little bit right now is you saw the power play hum a little bit early in the season, right? And the PK was absolutely atrocious. Again, it goes with goaltending, and then what you saw was goaltending not very good. So I mean, there's three components, right? There's penalty killing, there's power play, and then usually you throw in goaltending in there. Obviously in 5-on-5 play, there you go, make it four components. It just really hasn't hum all four at the same time so far this season. You can blame, like I said, you can blame the road trip, like the road trips, which I've been doing this past couple weeks. You can blame injuries. You can blame, lack of production for a little bit from, remember McKinnon went on a stretch of 6 points in 8 games and everyone thought it was the end of the world. And, which it was to his standard, it was right. But right. It's just crazy, but not everything has meshed all at the same time. And then once it does, I do believe, and it will, this is going to be a team that's going to be tough, and I wouldn't want to face them. I mean, obviously you know what they're going to do at the deadline. They're going to add a little bit of grit. I know you're missing right now Manson. That's a gritty player. I understand he's not having his best season, but he's still a gritty player. He's still an imposing player. You're missing Miles Wood that brings that and the chaos and the speed and the size and get into bodies. So depending on what's going to happen with those guys, I think pretty easy on Manson. I think Wood is a little bit more of a question mark, not really knowing what's, month to month is pretty vague, right? But I do believe that somewhere at the deadline, they'll be looking at, maybe is it a centerman that can bring that and then bring, some face-offs, maybe a little bit of both. I'm not sure what's going to happen, who's going to be available at that time, but that's probably what they have their focus right now with the pro guys. Again, as you guys know, they're spread out throughout America and an American League, and like on a nightly basis to go and get themselves ready for the trade deadline, which you don't just all of a sudden show up at the trade deadline and say, oh, who are we trading today? So this is months of preparation. They all know what they've identified, which is probably what we just talked about. Everybody watches the same games and then try to go identify and see how they can fix that a little bit, which once they have that and those four components we talked about all together, pretty tough team to beat. I'll tell you, 4 games out of 7, it's a tough one.
Never easy, but you know what? Sometimes you got to go through the hard parts to get to the good parts. So hopefully the Avs can get to where they need to be. And as much as I don't particularly love stretches of this game, if they win every game 4-2 and it looks ugly, then you will live with that. Every night you win 4-2, you don't care how the game looked. Really, I understand. Yes, analytics are important. Analytics will tell you the story of how sustainable something is, but you're allowed to win ugly. You're allowed to do that. So the Avs have done a little bit of that lately, and good. Eventually it'll come together. Eric, I loved the way you put it. I don't know if you've seen a single game where all 4 pieces of the Avs game has come together, that being offense, defense, goaltending, and special teams. I think you've seen some nights where
I can think of one. I'll
maybe,
think of one, the Vegas game at home.
2-1 even that one, you feel like 3 of the 4 you got, maybe. But all 4, maybe, I don't know that there's a single night that you've gotten it. And that should scare teams. That should scare. The Avs are 1 win away from 20 wins. as a team that hasn't put it all together maybe yet this season.
Standards are high. Standards are high. You know what I mean? And
Yep.
that's the difference between, the San Jose Sharks, like tonight, where you make mistakes, pucks are in your net, and then it's a teaching moment. The Avalanche, you make mistakes, pucks in your net. It's not a teaching moment. It's a, hey, buddy, we're here to win the cup. We don't do this. There's a big difference. You know what I mean? And it's a big different standard, which is very normal. The Avs were there years ago. You know what I mean? Yep. So that's it.
All right. On that note, let me tell you guys about how none of my bets actually hit tonight. No, that's not true. My Mackenzie Blackwood saves bet did hit tonight. We're good. We hit one.
That's right. Yeah.
This podcast is brought to you by Bet365, where things are never ordinary. You can jump in with code DNVR365 today and get $150 in bonus bets when you bet $5 on anything. And you can bet on the Avs. You can bet against the Avs. You don't even have to bet on hockey if that's not your thing. Although it sounds like the Broncos and Nuggets let you guys down. The Colorado parlay, Avs were the only part that pulled through for you on that one if you took that bet. But whatever it is you're betting on, you can do it with Bet365, and it's literally everything. I mean, obviously they have all the big sports, but I was betting on Counter-Strike the other week. You can go in there and you can bet on badminton, whatever you want. Bet365 has you covered. So jump in today. Again, use that DNVR365 code with Bet365. And of course, you must be 21 or older, physically located in Colorado. And if you or someone you know has a gambling problem, call or text 1-800-GAMBLER today. And then, just to remind you, we are also brought to you by Verizon. So make sure you jump on Verizon. I already told you about how awesome their network is, but once again, you can get on with them. And when you do transfer over to Verizon for the holidays, you get a $200 e-gift card today, as long as you sign up for an unlimited plus plan and pick up a phone for $799.99 or more. And they'll even do a trade-in for your current phone. So if you want to look at a little bit of a better price, you can trade in your current one for the upgrade, and then you'll be all set with Verizon's 5G network to run everything for you. So get with Verizon today as well. Okay. We've kind of beat around the bush here, the third period. That is important stuff for Colorado. And I know that this is not the way you want to win with the lead, as the Avs led after the first period of this game, but the stat remains true. The Avs are 9 for 9 after leading at the end of the first period. They have yet to lose a game where they won the first period. Unfortunately, they've only done that 9 times out of 34. So
I know.
It seems pretty straightforward for this hockey team, man. If they show up just a little bit more often at the right times, they're a lot closer than I think some people think to being very good.
And to add to your point there of the first period, because we've been harping on it for a while now, because it's such a different team, but take it a little step further. They're one of the best teams at closing teams out if leading after 2. You know what I mean? So it's a deadly combo. It's a deadly combo. If those 2 hit, you're in good shape. And that's also a state of mind as a coaching staff, as a team. They feel good, and I do believe. I think Brendan put it in the stats the other day. I think it was like they're one of the top teams in the league at one goal games or whatever. They feel confident in those games, and if you want to win championships, you have to feel confident in 1-goal games. If you're not confident in 1-goal games, you're never going to win. You're never going to win playoff series. It's just not going to happen. If you just choke and panic and change your mode and go on your heels and don't know how to close out teams, that usually happens to teams that are trying to figure out their ways to go win championships. It's the old saying of you got to learn to lose before you win. And obviously I'm not sure what the saying is, but you know what I mean. You got to go through the losing before learning how to win. And for example, tonight it's 2 teams exactly like that. It's the Avalanche that know how to close out a team, and then the San Jose Sharks that are trying to find their ways to get to the playoffs one day and learn how to play. And I do believe they have the right coach in Wasowski, good young coach, obviously has passion for the game. And, I think it will be a good fit for them. And you're going to see a tremendous amount of improvement, maybe in the second half, and then that will lead them to the next year. And then try to, I know we said they're years away, probably last summer, but who knows? You never know. You add a guy like Salabrini, they're game changers. They're game changers, and then you got Will Smith right behind them. That obviously is going to be an incredible player as well. So, I mean, they're on the right track, and I think you saw that tonight. You know what I mean with the two mindsets.
The Avalanche are an unbelievably confident team. The score to me almost doesn't matter. Down 3, up 3, tied, up 1, down 1. Every single situation, they believe they're going to win the game. And they maybe not when it's 8-2 against Tampa or something, but every realistic situation, they believe they're going to win. They're confident almost to a fault. The vast majority of the time, it's a very good thing. You have to have that mentality to do things like come back as regularly as they do and to not get nervous when it comes to closing out tight games like you were talking about. But also at times it feels like hubris. They get overconfident and they feel like, oh, we'll figure it out later. Oh, we take a couple of shifts off. It burns them. And they're so good that more often than not, they figure it out anyway. But I do think there's an interesting balance in the Colorado Avalanche of finding the right amount of confidence to where you're not overconfident.
And to a fault, like you said, to a fault is exactly that. And why are they like that? Well, for me, there's a couple reasons. One is they've done it. They've won. Once you've
Sure.
done that, no one can tell me it doesn't work. I've done it, right? You know what I mean? And that's, like I said, to a fault. Sometimes it can bite you on a regular season game. Two, the belief. They believe in their ability to go make that play, and that's why they're so stubborn on that power play, and that's why people want to get on Ray Bennett's butt. Like, hey, it's hard. Like, I'm not saying raise a mitten. I'm just saying, like, it's. I always felt like that back then. I'm like, you're really gonna tell Joe Sakic or Peter Forsberg what you're gonna do? You're gonna tell them this is our tendencies, this is what we're trying to do. But then when the pucks, those are the guys you want to have the puck on their stick when the
Yep.
game is on the line. Like tonight, San Jose doesn't convert on their power plays, and all of a sudden, or whatever it was, vice versa. But the Avalanche did,
Yep.
and who has the puck on his stick? That had a very average game at best, if I'm being nice. Nate McKinnon.
Yep.
And what does he do? He makes that pass that you can defend to a 50-goal score across. I mean, that's just talent, that's belief, and that's just like you said. Sometimes to a fault, you argue it, and it was a great point.
And that play summed up Nathan McKinnon's game emotionally for me, especially because the way that play sets up is Cale Makar is setting up Nathan McKinnon for the one-timer there, and McKinnon double clutches it. And then I'm mid-eye roll, and he snipes that pass across the ice to Mikko, and the puck's in the back of the net. And it's like, oh, okay, yeah, well, sure.
Yeah.
Turns out he's pretty good.
Sure, we'll take that. Now if you're anybody else, and for those guys, it's like, yeah, I can do that. That's not a big deal. You know what I mean? Like it's normal. Like,
Yeah,
and then for the other, 16 guys on the team, they're like, whoa, what was that? You know what I mean? Like, that was dirty. That is sick. And you got to have the confidence to do it. And a lot of times, like, if you're not McKinnon and you make that play across and they stop it, then it's you might get an earful when you get back to the bench. You know what I mean? Like, because there are different sets of rules for guys that are 1, 2, or 3 in scoring in the National Hockey League. It's just a reality. And it should be that way because they're better than you. And that's it. You know what I mean? They're better than me. And you got to give them free reign. And if it doesn't work and you're losing every game and they're not producing, yeah, then maybe they're not as good as you think they are. But those guys are good. That's the difference.
and just to be clear, even for as poor as I thought the Av Stars played at times in this hockey game, at the end of the night, Nathan McKinnon, 26 Corsi for, 11 against at 5-on-5. He still had a dominant possession game at 5-on-5 ultimately. So
it's the optics, right? It's the optics.
Yeah, right.
Sometimes,
I know.
It's just like, we see a bad shift. We're like, oh God. Moose is like Bambiing like between the blue and twice, and he's falling down. You're like, oh God, he doesn't have it tonight, But we forget that it's tough to judge the Giovanni Smith tonight, like, and say, whoa, he didn't make any turnovers. No, I know he didn't have the puck. Those guys have the puck the whole night. So yeah, there's gonna be a turnover here and there. I mean, if you remember in the third period, McKinnon just throws that puck down. I'm like, yikes! In his own end backhand there. Ooh, it didn't go well.
Yep.
I'm like, ooh, I might have thrown an F bomb there. You know what I mean? Like, hey, what was that? You know what I mean? Like, now if you're somebody else and you do that, you're not getting back on the ice. It's just life, right? You know. So
Yep.
I think, but those guys play so many minutes and they have the puck so much, you know, that things like that are bound to happen. But you're right. I'm going back to the start of the show. You got to make sure you limit those, you know, because those habits, you don't want them to be your new you, right? You know, you got to be careful with those things.
Yep. All right. I think we're pretty wrapped up about this game. I do want to look towards tomorrow a little bit, but before we do, we need to have a little bit of a talk. And look, just to be clear, these are my opinions, nobody else's. So anything I say is mine to own here. DNVR laid off a handful of people, or rather ALLCITY laid off a handful of people, including 2 DNVR members. That includes Gizmo of the Avalanche Beats, who obviously won't be on these shows anymore because of that. And on a personal level, this is incredibly disappointing to me for a lot of reasons. I don't think it represents what we want DNVR to be. And these decisions were ultimately made above my head, and there's nothing I can do about it. And that sucks. If it were up to me, Giz would be live on this pod right now with us, and he's not. And again, to me, this is not how I want DNVR to be represented. I think we are a company that we care about our people, and we lost a team member based on this decision. It does not feel good. Any part of this does not feel good. And it's a tough one for me, because whether this is my own hubris or not, I personally believe we are not only the best Avalanche coverage there is out there, but one of the best local team coverages in the country. And to see a team member get taken away from us like that it's frankly not fair. But it is what it is. It happened, and there's nothing I can change. So ultimately, all I can tell you guys is wherever Gizmo ends up landing, go support him, because it's important to support good people. And everyone that's ever been a part of this team is good people. So I hope you guys will continue to support him. And I do still love my job, and I love doing this, and I'm going to keep doing it. So support us too. I'll leave it at that.
Well said. I again, just to add to it, for me, again, like you said, it's bittersweet in the sense that it's just, you know, it's a good friend of mine. It's a good personal friend of mine for many years, and yeah, it certainly hurts. And but like you said, he's a good person. He's a good human being. He's a knowledgeable and good at his job. I felt that you know, we were privileged to have him, and I felt that, you know, we were well surrounded in our way of doing things. You know, with AJ still being around too as well, and I thought it was a nice mix of what was needed. But like you said, you know, decisions were made, and it is what it is. You don't have to agree with them, but you know, in life sometimes those things happen, and it doesn't make it right. But you know, I really like what you said about support and supporting good people, because that's certainly a good one that we lost there.
Yep. Okay. We are wrapping up quick here, so I guess let's hit super chats and then get out of here. We got $5 from John, who says, I hate being the guy that yells shoot at the TV, but effing a shoot.
That's me, buddy.
Look, a lot of this year, it's been a lot of Avs fans. At times, this team just decides not to shoot the puck, man. I don't know what to tell you on that one. Sometimes you got to be the guy yelling shoot.
That's okay. I'll support you.
$10 from Miss Truly, who says, because Kiviranta.
That's right. And you know what? He came clutch again tonight. Almost got that hat trick. If he would have not been stuck on the bench with those 62 icings in the last minute there, he might have gotten a shot at it.
He was out there for the first part of it, but yeah, couldn't get it to go in for him. So it is what it is. And then $5 from the Walrus, who says, awesome to see Georgiev finally keeping the Avs in the game. Weird way to do it, but hey, hashtag trusting farts.
tonight you're trusting farts for sure there, Walrus, with, you had no problem there with Blackwood in the net and the other guy on the other side.
Yep. Yeah, it worked out. So I guess you'll take it, certainly, if you're the Colorado Avalanche. We do have to wrap up here, but we will be back tomorrow, obviously, covering the Avs versus Ducks game. Certainly pregame and postgame. I don't know if we'll have a watch along or not. We'll see. We'll see how things shake out. But either way, we appreciate all of y'all being here and supporting us, and hope you will continue to do so and support everybody else you like too. So thank you, and we will talk to you on the next one.
We all silly like the mayor.